Welcome to the Faith Together podcast from the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. If you believe that passing down Christian faith is essential for the next generation, you are in the right place. Enjoy conversations with guests who are faith practitioners, parents, caregivers, pastors, counselors, and many more. You'll enjoy practical tools and community for passing down Christian faith to your children and grandchildren. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Faith Together podcast. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are so glad you've joined us today. And my name is Leon, and I co-host our podcast. And this podcast is presented by the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University, where the focus of the center is to help parents effectively pass their faith to their children, which we're all very, very excited to be a part of and glad you have joined us today. All right, well, I'm not here alone. I am here with my friend, Lindsey. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Leon. It's great to be here today.
You know, this has been, we're in our second season. It's hard to believe that.
It really is.
Yeah, and when we got
over
started.
30 episodes.
Yeah, when we got started over a year ago, we really didn't have any idea what we were doing, did we?
Oh, no.
And it's been a really fun journey.
It has.
I was telling someone that doing this podcast is a little addictive.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy sharing just thoughts and having guests in and learning from them and just the whole focus of what the podcast is about.
Yeah, I think we both appreciate a love for learning. And I think the podcast helps us to just stay learners, stay attuned to new things and share it with one another and share it with our guests.
Yeah. And today's podcast is fairly unique because usually we work in themes.
We do.
So we do a series for 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks.
However long it takes
how
sometimes.
long it takes to get through the series.
Yes.
But today is kind of what I refer to as almost like a bonus episode.
Love it.
Okay. And so it's like right in the middle of other series that we might be working on. And the reason we're doing it is because of someone who's very special that happens to be here with us. Now, let me give a little bit of background. Some of you, if you've been listening, know that one of my great loves is to be able to take groups of students from Olivet during the summer for about 16 days to Tanzania, Africa, where we work with local Nazarene churches and districts there. And we've been doing this since 2009. And one of the things I love about this experience is it's not a one and done kind of mission trip.
Yeah.
We have built long relationships, long-term relationships. It really is. And truth be told, the people of Tanzania that I have gotten to know over these years are more like family than they are friends.
Oh.
And I happen to have one of them in the studio with us today, Lindsey.
We have a family member with us.
Yes. So let me introduce you to Nicholas Barasa. We refer to him as Borrasa. In fact, I always thought Borrasa was his first name until I realized it wasn't. And I think it was years of being with him that I realized that. So, Borrasa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leona.
So glad to have you with us. And so rather than me kind of giving our audience a little bit of background on you, why don't you share with us? Tell us a little bit about your family, where you're from, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Leon and Lisa. And I'm so humbled to be part of this conversation. My name is Nicholas Barasa, and I come from Kenya. I am married. I'm blessed with 2 beautiful girls. Currently, I am serving as a missionary in Zambia, and I love doing what God has called me to do. Yep.
Yeah, and you're really good at it. So Borrasa has been our team leader for many years.
Wow.
So he joined us on our very first trip in 2009 as a translator. And then after some time, I think in 2013 or 2014, you became our leader.
2014.
2014.
Yep.
Yeah, so you became our leader. And Lindsey, you would not believe the work that they do before we arrive.
Wow.
So they travel to Tanzania. They figure out where we're going to eat, where we're going to stay. They meet with the district superintendents or pastors of the churches we're going to be working at, find out what it is they need from us. They do all of this background work. and not from a distance. They actually like travel our route and do all that beforehand so that things go smoothly when we're there. And most of my team isn't aware of that. I mean, I tell them that, but they don't realize that all the involvement in making that happen.
You really prepare the way and the environment for Jesus to be shared.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Borrasa, tell us about how you encountered Jesus.
Wow, thank you. It is an interesting way how I did that. Grew up in a family where my mother was a Christian. She could wake us up every Sunday to go to church, but I never understood the meaning of why do we have to go to church. I thought it's just a tradition like every other family to go to church. And when I got into high school, it got interesting because my desk mate was a very committed Christian, and every time he could be able to share with me about the love of Christ. And for me, I said, as long as I go to church, I'm good to go. Until one day we had a prayer meeting for students, and the person who was preaching on that day, he spoke about so many things, but I can't remember. But one thing stood out is for me is that if Christ come today, how is your relationship with him? And that really changed my perspective about my relationship with Christ. I thought going to church is all important, but from that time I realized that having a relationship with Jesus Christ is more important than any other thing. And that's the time I decided to turn away from my ways and follow Christ. And that is the best decision I have ever made in my life.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So since those days, you've been on a very interesting journey.
Yes.
So you married?
Yes, I am married.
And you had children?
I have been blessed with 2 daughters.
Yeah. And you want to give us their names and ages? Maybe they'll listen to this and they'll hear their names. So this will be good.
Yeah, we are blessed with a beautiful girl called Marianne. She's now 23 years. And then we are blessed with also another girl called Mylene. She's 13 years this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember when she was born.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that time in 2012 when she was born. It was only 2 weeks before you came to Tanzania. So it happened that I was not able to join you on that team. But I bless the Lord because we have kept that relationship for all those years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. All right. So you were a youth leader for the region, the Africa East field. Why don't you describe that to our listeners? What makes an Africa East field?
Okay. Africa region is divided into fields. We have Africa East field, whereby we bring countries that are on the eastern part of Africa. That is Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. So those are the countries that constitute Africa East field. And I got an opportunity to serve as the field youth ministry coordinator for all those countries. And it gave me an opportunity to travel around to mingle with young people because my heart was to reach my generation for Christ. Because when I gave my life to Christ, I said, I can be able to relate with someone of my age. And I thought that I can be the agent to go and share the love of Christ with someone who is on my age. And I'm so privileged to be able to have met great young people who have sold their life for Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, and wow, watching you in action when I'm there has been a fun experience. All right, so you served as the youth ministry director for the Africa East field, and you did that for how many years?
I did it for 8 years.
8 years.
Yes.
And then you were sensing a redirection.
Yeah, around the time we were serving as youth ministry, and I was able to serve across different communities and culture. Our leader, who is the field strategy coordinator, one day we were just having a conversation and he asked, do you feel God calling you into cross-cultural ministry? At that point, it was something that has never crossed my mind. And out of our conversation and encouragement, he gave me books to read about missions. He gave me exposure on having practical ministry experience in a culture different from mine. And I said, God, if it's your will for me to serve beyond my community, may your will be done. And years later down the line, the church recognizes my calling and gave me an opportunity to go and serve in Zambia. Currently, I'm serving in Zambia as a missionary.
Yeah. And as someone who has walked with you through that journey over those years, it's so exciting for me to watch how God is using you now in Zambia. Now, I have to say that while I'm excited about that, I'm also very sad. And you know why? Because now when I bring teams to Tanzania to serve there, you will not be our leader any longer.
Yes.
Now, you'll always be a leader in my heart and the way that I think about doing cross-cultural ministry in Tanzania. But I love that God's using you in Zambia, and I'm also sad that I don't get to serve with you there in Tanzania. Who knows what will happen in the future as far as serving with you in Zambia? Which is a possibility, right?
There's a lot of possibility because we are just neighbors with Tanzania. Zambia is on the southern side of Tanzania. And looking at how our engagement is, we were most welcome to come and serve alongside us. The kingdom of heaven is still vast and they still need more workers to come and help us to disciple more leaders, to equip more leaders, to be able to reach more with the love of Christ.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love about what we get to do when we are in Tanzania, Lindsey, is we get to work with leaders, pastors and youth ministry leaders and children's ministry leaders. And one of the things I continue to hear from leadership in that part of the world is we need leadership training. We need our leaders to know how to do ministry, whether they're pastors or just lay people who want to serve the Lord.
Maybe just to give a context on the area that we are doing ministry, you realize we have a number of ministers who they feel God has called them to ministry, but unfortunately they don't have the education that can be able to help them to do ministry. So with your coming, with the support of other people coming on the board, they are able to help us to equip them with the information they could have gone to get in the colleges and universities, but we bring this information to them. And over time, for the years that we have worked together, we have seen there's a tremendous change because we started with basic information. Now we are discussing solid theological things that are affecting our generation and our church today.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, I'm privileged and honored to be a part of that. It's been fun. And one of the real wonderful benefits of long-term, short-term mission work. I hope that makes sense. So short-term in the moment, long-term in relationship. Mm-hmm. And one of the great advantages of that is you get to watch people grow.
Yeah, it's such a sustainable model too, because you're able to see people grow, you're able to see the transformation, but it's amazing to be able to go back and know that it's not going to fall apart where you left because they are continuing to learn and you've given them the tools to do that. So you can continue to grow where you are, we can continue to grow where we are, and that is such a blessing on both ends.
Yeah. Here's an example of that, Lindsey. There was one year that we were not able to go. I think it might have been a General Assembly year. So in the Church of the Nazarene, we gather once every 4 years from around the world. We have leadership come together, right? And it may have been one of those years, so we didn't send a team to Tanzania. What I found later is that a group of pastors and leaders from the area that we have been training for many years prior to that, they decided, well, since they can't come to us, there are people in our area that haven't heard their training yet. Why don't we go to them and train them? And you know, as a pastor and as a teacher, there's no greater experience, affirmation of what you do than for someone to turn around and then do it.
Yes.
themselves.
That's the
right?
goal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So passing it on and then them passing it on. So that's been really, really fun. And I get to see that when I go back. So Borrasa, you've been involved in a lot of areas of ministry. You've impacted a lot of lives. Talk to us about how what you have done has impacted families.
One of the things that we realize about family is very important in the foundation of any society. I believe that if we have a very strong family, we have a strong church. If we have a very strong church, it impacts the society to be in a positive way. So one of the things that I've realized that when we put family as the foundation and lay it on the foundation of God, it becomes very strong. In the sense that we pray together, in the sense that we are able to live in a way that honors God as a family and as individuals, that at the end of the day, we can be able to spill over to where we spend our time, either in school or either in the marketplace or even in the church.
Wow. That's well said. Thank you. That's I'm just processing through all of that because that was
powerful.
That was good. That's good. Lindsey, anything as you're listening that you would like to ask Borrasa and probe a little bit?
Yeah, Borrasa, I'm interested to hear a little bit about your call to ministry. I know you shared that there was a pastor who gave you some books on cross-cultural ministry and scriptures and all those things, but I think there are many listeners out there and even students here at Olivet that wrestle with, what am I called to in ministry? How do I discern the voice of God? When do I know where He's sending me? What has been your experience with responding to God's call?
Yeah, so it is interesting the way I found myself in ministry. As I've mentioned that I gave my life to Christ when I was still in high school, and then after high school I was wondering, what do I do with my life? I had big dreams, and my desire was to go into the engineering world, especially being fascinated with the IT, technology, computers. That was something that was my passion. And after high school, as we are thinking what to do next, I found myself serving in our local church. We got involved into what is happening in the church, and got involved in the Bible quizzing in the youth ministry, got involved in music, and then I started now venturing outside, going with evangelism. And one day I was asked to go to attend a Bible there's an opportunity to go to a Bible college. And for me, I thought people who are going to Bible college are old people who have already retired. They don't have anything else to do. They have already lived their life. I said, I know I'll serve God one day, but not now. Let me first of all live my life. But it became like 5-6 people different coming to speak to me about, we feel that you go to college to be equipped for what God is preparing in future. I didn't know what is happening. And out of curiosity, I said, let me go and understand what is happening in these Bible classes. I thought going to a Bible college is to sing, read the Bible, pray for 3 years, and then you graduate.
Yes.
I didn't understand that there's so much happening there. So when I got into the first class, it was fascinating because the class was about church history. And I got interested to learn how the church has been growing from the time of the book of Acts to today. I said, it's something to continue. So along the way, I finished, and then I asked my pastor, I'm finished, what next? My pastor told me, I didn't call you. God is the one who called you. Ask God to show you where He wants you to serve. And my heart became so much inclined towards the young people. And from there, I became so intentional in working with young people in the area of discipleship, in the area of reaching them out so that they can know Christ. Along the way, I drifted to go to do my personal things. I got employed in another organization, but my heart was not fulfilled there where I was. I was getting good money, but my heart was not at peace. until I said, why should I work in a place where I don't feel satisfied? But when I get into ministry, I don't struggle. It's something that is just flowing. And I felt it's like God is telling me, this is where I want you to be.
Yes.
And that is when I said, Lord, here I am. Like the prayer in the book of Isaiah chapter 6. Who will I send and who will go for us? And I said, here I am, Lord, send me. Wherever you throw me in, I'll be there to serve you.
Yes.
And I have never looked back.
Amen. Well, thank you, Borrasa. That's powerful. And I have, tears in my eyes because I think that our listeners today, families out there, parents, students, whoever's listening in, that God has a call on all of our lives, and that you are right. It is not a man's call, it's God's call, and he will show you where to go. And I think one thing beautiful that I'm hearing in your story is that there were other people surrounding you that really spoke that life and spoke that truth to you. Like, hey, have you thought about Bible college? And parents, it's so important to have godly wisdom and influences around your children, around your family, to speak into them at the times of life that they're making these decisions of where to go to school, what job to pursue, what field to be a part of. So just thank you for sharing that. And it's a good reminder for our families.
Yeah. Yeah. So you ended up going to Olivet Nazarene University.
Yes.
And you received an undergrad degree there.
Yes, I did.
And what was that in?
I did my first degree in theology.
Okay, and then you had a master's degree as well.
Yes, I pursued master's degree again in religion.
Okay, so you have followed your pastor's instruction well of going to school and getting your education.
My pastor gave me a statement that was very controversial. He told me that I don't encourage you to go back to Bible college if you're not ready and if you're not sure about your calling. Because if you go to a theological college, two things will happen. Either you become a very strong Christian or you'll question your faith. And before you go there, seek the face of God first to give you direction. Because we have had students who came to Bible college and along the way, they didn't continue. They got disappointed along the way. Because maybe they were pushed by their parents, or maybe they felt we don't have anything else to do, and they went there. So the thing that my pastor encouraged me is that seek the face of God first before you do anything, because he's the one to give you direction. But if you push yourself along the way, you'll get disappointed, and you start blaming God again. Yeah,
that's good advice. I think even of some of the students that I have, Lindsey, who struggle along the way with the call to ministry. They're not sure. They're trying it out to see. I think that's probably a good measuring tool. Seek God first.
Yes.
How do you feel like he's directing you, and then go in that direction? I can understand how someone would go into a theology degree or any kind of ministry preparation, and if they're not called into that area, how they could be disgruntled and turn away and question everything.
Doubt.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because one of the things I know about ministry is that we are not doing it for ourselves. We are doing it for God, and God is the one to give us direction.
So, Lindsey, as you're hearing Borrasa speak and you think about our families that are listening, anything that you're taking from what he has shared that would apply to our families?
I think one thing that stuck out to me was when you shared, Borrasa, about strong families create strong churches, which then create strong societies. And I think sometimes we forget that that's the order that the Lord has placed the progression of family and church life. Start at home with your family, and then the greater community, the church, and then your community and your society, like working inside out. I think sometimes we like to look to our society for answers, and then sprinkle in church, and then whenever we can be with our family, we're with our family. But I love the flip that you gave us on that it is really starting at home and that builds into our churches and that builds into our societies. And so I would just encourage families out there that are listening, if you are not connected to your own family and connected to a local church, to make that a priority, because it is exactly how God will use you. He will direct you and guide you and put you right in the communities you're to be in. And to just remember that what happens at home is so important and it builds on everything else. And so just a good reminder of what we're all about here at the Center for Faith and Family.
Right. And I think what you said there at the end was really important. What happens at home.
Right.
And is kind of the starting point in this, right? And so one of the great privileges we have as parents is as we see God moving in the lives of our kids, to be able to name that in their lives. God has gifted you in this way. How do you think he would want you to use that? And continue to do that as they grow up, so that when they get to that point of, is God calling me into ministry? Is God calling me to do this? Is God calling me to do that? That it's not a brand new experience of discovery. It's a continuation of the discovery that's been unfolding as parents have been naming that in the lives of their kids. And I think we don't have to have all the answers, but we can begin naming those things that we see God doing in their lives, the way he's using the gifts that he has given them.
Yes. And I think too that we talk about this at Olivet a lot, about career and calling, those two things going together. So even as your children grow up and they may not be called to pastoral ministry, but they're called to a career, God still has a calling within that career for them to serve him, because as Borrasa, you reminded us, it's all for God. I mean, that's why we're here. And so just reminding and naming that for our children too.
Yeah, sometimes we call that vocation.
Yes.
So it's my career being used as service to God, but the focus is service to God, not my career.
Right.
So wherever you find yourself, do it all to the glory of the Lord, right?
That's right.
It's very important, because the other day I was having a conversation with our leaders, and I was something that stood out is that when we talk about ministry, it's not all about pulpit ministry. It means that wherever vocation you are in, maybe you are in the medical field, you can be a minister in the medical field because you speak their language, you understand whatever they are going through. If you are an engineer, you can be able to be an ambassador of Christ in the engineering world. So the vocation that we have, it gives us a platform for us to go and speak our faith to the people in our vocation.
Yeah, so that's a great challenge for our parents that are listening.
Yes.
Wherever you find yourself, whatever that career may be, can you change it from a career to a vocation?
Yes.
So that wherever God has placed you, you're using that as an opportunity to be an ambassador for him to the people that you work with and the people you encounter. Yeah, that's great. So Borrasa, this is a fairly short conversation. There's so much I'd love to let our listeners in on the conversations you and I have about experiences and things like that. Any particular experience from your life that has just made a significant impact that you'd like to share as we come to a close of our podcast?
A lot of them have happened, but the one that stands out is that in as much I've been involved in ministry for a long time, God has continued speaking to me or teaching me to depend on him more. At times I come to start thinking about how can I be able to do it in my own strength, my own way of doing things. But my wife is a very prayerful lady. And I believe that when she prays, things happen. And many situations that she has prayed and things have worked out to a point I was saying that it could not be able to work it out. And I can say that some situation I say that, oh God, it's all for him to tell me, for me to depend on him more and more and more. Situation for me to come to the US, I never dreamt one day I'll visit the United States of America. I was asking, where will I get the money to come? But God has opened ways that I don't know how it happened, but he did it in his own way. And it has affirmed into my heart that there's nothing that is difficult in God. There's nothing that is difficult when you serve God. He rewards you when you diligently serve him.
Amen.
Those are great words. Good way for us to end. But I want to share one thing. What I heard Borrasa say internally makes me laugh a bit. And the reason for that is because when I see my brothers and sisters in Tanzania who are followers of Jesus, their amazing faith and trust that God is going to provide for their needs puts me to shame. They don't intend to do that, of course, but just internally for me, one of the things I learn when I'm there is the incredible joy, trust, commitment, faith that they have that God will provide for them and take care of them. And it's a wonderful experience to watch. And I try to take as much of that home with me as I can when I come back. Because we, as Americans, tend to live our lives as self-dependent, independent, and the idea of depending on God for everything sometimes is not the approach that we take. And I want to be that kind of person. So what you've said, Borrasa, as someone who I watch who has incredible faith and trust in God, reminds me that I need to have that same kind of faith. Well, we hope that this conversation has inspired you a bit. I hope that you've learned some things from my dear friend, and that you'll even think about some of the things we've discussed when it comes to the way you encourage your children, the way you name God's activity in their lives, the way that you name the gifting that he has given them, and encourage them to be all that God has created them to be. Not in the future, but right now. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and give you peace. You've been listening to the Faith Together podcast from the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. Sign up for additional resources at centerff.com. When building faith, we are better together.